there, class! Welcome to today's lesson. Today's lesson is the last part of a three-part lesson where you will learn all about parts of speech, nouns, adjectives, and verbs. In this third lesson, you will learn all about verbs, and by the end of the lesson, you should be able to define a verb and identify the features and functions of verbs in a passage or sentence. Have you ever written or spoken about something you or someone else did? Well, if you have used a verb before. A verb is a word or a combination of words that shows action or a state of being or condition. A verb is the part of a sentence that tells us what the subject performs and are the heart of English sentences. Verbs are very important in grammar, and we actually use many different types of verbs when we talk about what things do or how things are. To help us communicate about the different actions and happenings we encounter in life, there are different types of verbs in the English language to help communicate these actions and conditions. Some of the common types of verbs include action verbs. Action verbs express specific actions and are used anytime you want to show when someone is doing something. For example, in these sentences, I work at a factory and cats chase mice. Work and chase are the action verbs in these sentences that show the action being performed. Another pair of verbs that you can use are transitive and intransitive verbs. One of the important functions of verbs is that of taking an object. Transitive verbs are verbs that have an object and therefore tell to whom or what the action is being done. While intransitive verbs are verbs that do not have an object. For example, in this first sentence, Zubeida cooked a pigeon. Cooked is a transitive verb because it has an object, pigeon. While in this second sentence, Zubeida cooked. The word cooked is now an intransitive verb because it has no object. That is, what she cooked is omitted. Another pair of verbs that you can use are auxiliary verbs, also known as helping verbs. Auxiliary verbs are also known as helping verbs and are used together with the main verb to show the verb's tense or to form a question or negative. Common examples of auxiliary verbs include modal verbs like have, might, and will, which describe the ability or probability to perform an action. These auxiliary verbs help the main verb by letting the reader know when the action occurred. For example, in these sentences, I may call on you later and Ayo might write the report soon. The words may and might are auxiliary verbs that help the main verbs call and write to express when the action is expected to happen. Another type of verb you can use is the stative verbs. Stative verbs describe things that are not actions but describe conditions. They typically relate to thoughts, emotions, relationships, senses, and states of being. For example, in these sentences, John doubts the doctor's opinion and I believe my team will win the match. The words doubt and believe are stative verbs that help to describe thoughts of the nouns in the sentence. Other types of verbs you can use are regular and irregular verbs. A verb is considered a regular verb if its past tense form and past participle end in ed, d, or t. For example, in the sentence, Ayo walked 2 miles to the post office. The verb walked is a regular verb because its past tense of walk ends in ed. On the other hand, an irregular verb is a verb whose past tense and past participle form do not end in ed, d, or t. Often, the spelling of the past tense of these verbs changes dramatically or may not even change at all. For example, in the sentence, Cindy knew all the right answers. The verb knew is an irregular verb because it's the past tense of the word know, but it doesn't end in ed, d, or t. With that, we have now come to the end of our three-part lesson series on the parts of speech, nouns, adjectives, and verbs. In this lesson, we learned all about verbs, their types, features, and how to use them. I hope you have learned loads of new things in this lesson. Goodbye!